Okay, here's a super short, kind of silly video, but I don't know, it's useful. Yeah, I'm leaning on the neck of the guitar. Whoo, bad news here, but if you notice, there's a bag underneath there, so I'm leaning on the bag, okay? Just for your information. All right, what I'm going to show you here, I make a set of luthier feeler gauges. These are automotive feeler gauges. I picked them up. I'm at my remote shop in Los Alamos, and I realized I didn't have a pair of feeler gauges here. So I went down to the auto parts store, picked up a set of feeler gauges, and here they are. They cost me a whopping $6. Now, here's the thing. When you get automotive feeler gauges, they're a huge stock of gauges, and they go from, oh man, tiny. Where's the markings on these? These are still covered with oil, which I hate. But man, these gauges go down to 0.015, and they go in 0.001 increments. So 17, 18, 19. You don't need that much detail for guitar repair. So what I do, well, unscrew this. See that? Unscrew it. I mean, this is so simple. Unscrew it. Pop the gauges out that you don't need. Pop them out, take that stack apart. And I'll just show you the gauges that I like and why I like them, which is ridiculous. But, you know, content, huh? Okay, put these back together. And then as soon as I get to my hacksaw here, I'm going to cut this excess off right here. I'm going to cut that excess off so that there's not that. And you have these. Okay, this is funny though. I like to have this thumb notch right here because I always use my right hand to open the gauges like this. Then when I fan them out, I start at, this is just because I'm used to this with the other set that I have, but I have mine run every 2/1000 of an inch, starting with 22, 20, 18, 16, 14, 12, 10. Okay, the reason I like this, 2/1000 of an inch is plenty. Yeah, a lot of people would say that's too much, you know, already. But 2/1000 is cool. The reason I do it like this is because I'm so used to fanning out the 20, the 22, the 22, the 20, the 18, and then the 16. And when I hit the 16, then I know that this is 76 thousandths worth of stuff. And in my mind, I see 16 and I read 76. And you can always get your calipers out like this, you know, instead of adding everything up, and it slides a little bit when I take it off, but 76 thousandths, okay? There you go. But you know, you can calibrate your calipers and your feeler gauges together. And when I was pushing it, it was 75. Or my release, it was 76. Close enough, you know. But the point is when I see the 16, my brain goes 76 thousandths. And when I add the 14 in there, when I see the 14, my brain goes 90 thousandths of an inch. So when I'm looking for an action that's 93, I slide that 90 under there, and I want to see just, you know, just a tap, just a tap, and that's going to be 92 or 93, and that's certainly close enough. The other thing I use a lot is a 76, and as you can see how I'm using my thumb here to push these out, and that's just, gosh, I've been doing this for 22, 23 years now, and it's just, that's the way I want that tool to work. Anyway, I pull out the other gauge I pull out a lot of times is this 8. So I see the 76 and I see the 8, and I've got 84. And my actions generally tend to go 93, 90, 87, 87, 84, and 80. So you can see I use that 84. When I'm looking for the 87, I want just a little bit of clearance over the 84. And then I go to the next string and it's 84, and it's going to just about, you know, it's going to tap it. Then I get rid of that, and I go over to the 76, and I want to see a little bit of tap there, and I've got pretty close to an 80 action. And then if I want to get, more detailed, that's just for the quick and dirty stuff. If I want to get more detailed, I'll pull that 04 out there. And so 76 and 04, there's your 80. Okay? So that's how I set up a set of feeler gauges for luthery work. So again, just to rehash real quick, 22, 20, 18, 16, 14, and I'm stepping down to 2/1000 of an inch, and I go down to 4. 4 is as much as I want to go. The other thing that's cool about the 4 is you can use it as a probe like this. So if you need a probe to go under this bridge to see if this bridge is tight, and things like that. See, there's a little bit of a gap right there. Let me get the GoPro down here. See, that 4 is real handy for a quick probe. I got a little bit of gap right under there on this bridge, so I will be looking at that. And that's one of the things I'm doing on this guitar, is looking at the bridge. So you have a real quick probe gauge right there. So again, I whip these out like that. I see the 16, I've got 76. And obviously if I get rid of the 16 and go down to the 18, I've got 60. 60 thousandths is kind of handy for electric guitars. Once in a while I have a guitar with an extremely low action, and I'll throw that 16 out of there and I know I've got 60. And so I have just done this for so long that I can add those instantly in my head. I like the thumb thing over here so that I can flip the gauges out like that with my thumb. And it's crazy because when I put this together the first time, I had this gap on the other side and it was driving me nuts because I couldn't push it out. I had to pull it, So it's just funny how you use tools for a long time, you get comfortable with something, and then anything else drives you nuts. Especially when you something like this that's simple and you're doing it reactively. You're thinking about something else and you're pushing those out. You want them to go this way. Okay. Now after you do this with your set of feeler gauges and you rip out half of them, you're gonna have a bunch of gauges like this that are all mixed up, and these are awesome for making glue pushers. So here's a 21, for instance, and it's pretty thick, The 21 would be really good for measuring your fret slots. How big are those fret slots? They should be about 20 thousandths of an inch. So a 21 is not going to go. A 19 should go. So I could easily take these 19s and 20s and stick them together here with a zip tie or something, and I can make myself a set of fret slot gauges. I don't have to go buy a special tool. There's a StewMac tool that I have somewhere, somebody gave me. But with this $6 set of feeler gauges, I've got a 19 and a 20, and that gives me a pass, no pass for fret slots. So that's, kind of handy. The ones that I really like to get to are the 09s, anywhere from an 09 and the 15s are good. Here we go, an 03. 03 is about my favorite one for making a probe for a feeler gauge. So when I come in here and check back braces, I take an 03 in there. Most of the time I also get 2 little blocks of cast off wood, little pieces of maple, spruce or something like that, and I'll epoxy them to here so that I have a little handle, and then I can bend that so I have a really nice little probe. An 03 is my favorite probe, 03 or 04. It's stiff enough to push, thin enough to go in through the cracks right there. Okay? So experience just tells me that. So there's 03, 05. I would keep both of those, set them aside, use them for that kind of thing. And the bigger one, like the 05 or 06, is really good for pushing the glue. You need a little bit of a thicker gauge at this point so that it'll push the glue. So this 05 right here is going into this bridge crack, and it would be just perfect for pushing the glue into there. I'd put the glue on the top right there, and I'd use this and push it in there. So, I'm going to save the 03, the 06 is on here. Here's 07. See, 07's not quite going in there as good, so it's a little thick for a probe. But I'll save the 07, the 09, set those aside, and I'll do something with them. So that set of feel gauges that I bought, even though I ripped half of them off, the rest of them serve a purpose. They'll come up for something good. So there's my foot slot, no-go. The 015s, the really small guys. Gosh, there's 2 of them in here together. I mean, that's how small that is. 3 of them. These guys. I'll take those and I'll go put those in my motorcycle toolbox. And I use them to check valves on 4-stroke motorcycles. A lot of guys are like, oh, man, you can't feel 0.02 of an inch. You know, 4-stroke motorcycle valves, yeah, you're going to be setting 2,000 is sometimes the limit. You know, that's the range. Your proper valve is going to be somewhere in between 0.02 of an inch, and that's where these little bitty dudes come in real handy. So I'll save these and I'll go put them in the motorcycle toolbox. Even put them inside one of these things to keep all the feeler gauges together. I might have duplicates because some of them you can bend, some of them you don't bend, and that sort of thing. So what do we got left? We've got 11, 13, 15, 23. You know, those aren't a whole lot of good to me now. You know, again, they're good for probes. So sometimes if there's a big loose back brace, something like that, these are good for pushing a lot of glue in there. The thicker it is, the more glue that it'll push. You get the glue in there and it'll push, and the depth, the thickness of this depends on how much glue. But basically, by the time I get to these, I'm just going to set these aside and use them for other stuff. So, through that one set of $6 feeler gauges, I've got my guitar gauges over here. I've got fret slot, pass or no pass. I've got glue and probes, and then I've got a set of a thicker pair of glue probes that I'll keep around for, you know, whatever. And metal feeler gauges, what I do here. Sorry about that. Stick them right there. Generally, I get a piece of white electrical tape, white or yellow or something bright, and I wrap it around the top right here so that I can see this thing. And I don't think I have any good tape here right now, but I will get a pair of white, yellow, something really bright, so that when I'm sitting here looking at all these tools up here and they're all silver, I can find my yellow feeler gauges. And again, it's a search image. It's just like, you know, pushing out the gauges here. Pushing the gauges out here, I see that 16 in my image 76. So if this is the only thing that's white on my bench, or yellow, my pencil's yellow, but that's okay. But if this is yellow or white, your search image in your brain is fast. You're looking for yellow, white, whatever color you make this thing. Fluorescent orange. Fluorescent orange would be good. I don't have anything fluorescent orange. And it just helps your brain. You don't have to think about it too much, you know. You're looking for something. I also always tend to put my tools in the same spot all the time. So the feeler gauges always go there on my bench. So I don't have to go hunt them down all the time, you know. Feeler gauges go right there. Now this bench is a little different because it is my remote bench, and so I took the opportunity to change a few things. So like and I don't have so much room in here too. So my clamps are going here because on my other bench I have a second board going across there and over here, and the clamps are up here at eye level. But I only brought 4 clamps with me to this remote bench, and there's a spot right here in between the magnet where they fit and they're out of the way. So that's where I'm going to put my clamps over here, and that's okay. I don't have to reach for the clamps all the time. Feeler gauges I reach for all the time, and I might end up moving these, you know. After using these for a while, that might be driving me crazy, trying to reach in here and get the feeler gauges. Might not like that, so you know, I might be moving these. I might run a second board over here and just go ahead and drop them in here. But I like things to be in a certain place. My calipers are always right here at my right hand, and the glue is always over there on the left, which it is. Paper towels are always over here on the left, that kind of thing. And this bench, because it's a fretting bench primarily, I have my fretting tools right here in front of me. Right here. And they're laid out from the smallest to the biggest. almost in the order I use them, you know. Here's the fret leveler, smallest over to the biggest, then the file for turning the frets here, then the crowner, and then this one I use, this is a triangular file. I use this one for touch-ups. So if I have a fret that's a little too much filing, which is very rare, but say I want to round the tips a little bit more, a lot of times I'll pull this triangular out and I'll just, you know, touch up some stuff like that. That's what I don't use a lot, but I need it. It goes at the end. Then the other ones are the tools that I use for pulling the frets, so the small pliers, the big pliers for cutting. These spare magnets need to go over here. Those little guys, you know, I probably just found those in something. I used the magnets and they got stuck to something and transported. I got one spatula. At the other one, I have a lot of spatulas. So anyways, I have my tools arranged in a fairly logical order in the way that I use them. Over here are the tools that I don't use a whole lot. Let me move the camera. These are the tools that I don't use a whole lot, so they're kind of over here out of the way. This is the fret nipper pliers that you use to cut the tang. And so I'm not going to use those very often. I want them out of the way. These are my various pliers, and they go like that so that they're easy to pull off this rack. You know, I don't like it when they go flat. I like them like this. This one's not cooperating, so I can pull them off. These are fret board radius gauges. And again, these are not my favorite ones. These are metal. I like the plastic ones better because they have a black side and a white side, and it gives you contrast a lot of times. But somebody gave me these in a box of tools, and you know, I'm going to use them. Also, you know, they're metal, so they do fit on there pretty nice, which is good. My flashlight fits on here. I got one little chisel with me. These are the StreamAc micro chisels, and they come in various sizes, and all the sizes are about the same. So I brought one set with me. They're real handy for cleaning out the nut slots over here a lot of times. Sometimes you can get them in on the bridge slots. Clean glue up a little bit. If I have a little bit of glue at the end of the fingerboard, they're just handy to have sometimes. There's my bridge slotting saw. I've got 3 or 4 of these. I just brought one with me. I can make do with one. That's no problem. This is the magnet. I needed a mirror here. I rarely use this at home. It's a magnet. It's a mirror with a magnet on it. You're supposed to be able to stick it on the inside of the guitar and hold it. I don't know. It's kind of a pain in the butt because you hit it and it moves it. But it is handy for this remote shop because it gives me both a mirror and a magnet here. And so I can just go like this, and I have a magnet that I use for clamping braces, clamping cleats on. It's just a handy thing to have here. When I do a lot more magnet work like I do at the other shop, the home shop, you know, I've got 12 of these things. But over here, you know, one's okay, and then like I said, I have those little magnets there. They're handy a lot of times for tracking down braces and stuff. How far back does the bridge plate go? Stuff like that. You can put this in here, put a magnet inside, and you can track it around, and you can trace your braces and stuff. If you have a, let me put this up. If you have a wrinkle, let's say you have a wrinkle here in your top. You got a wrinkle right here that indicates a loose brace. It's really handy sometimes to put a magnet on the inside and one on the outside, and you can track it around right here, and you can find the exact point, and then you look inside and you can see exactly where that little wrinkle might be. Sometimes that can help you track down a loose brace that's tricky to find sometimes. So. Okay, so what else is on my bench? I brought a couple of tools with me this time. I'm going to take a popsicle brace out of this guitar. I'm going to shave the rear back braces, and that's all I'm going to do on this guitar. I got work to do, real work. So I brought 2 chisels with me. These will go back home. Really ought to go get, I guess I got a set. I got a chisel here. I bought it at the hardware store. It's just a straight 1/4 inch chisel. Cost me $6 or so. What I need to do is cut the handle off though. I don't want this much handle. You can see I cut this handle. And this is a shorter chisel too. So look how much shorter that is. And this short chisel lets you get in at a better angle a lot of times. So this one's a little too long, but it is really good. The longer ones are good for reaching sometimes. So, but I need to take this one home and cut that off because I don't need that much handle. So I knew I didn't have a short chisel with me. So I brought this one with me. And I brought this one with me, which is a StewMac chisel. They sell them for ridge plate removal, which I've never in my life used them for that. But I had my son heat and bend this one. And what this one's really good for is getting things started. So, and I made the friendly plastic handle here. You know, you can make a wood handle if you wanted to. But it's just like this. It's really handy for getting in like this and getting something started like that. Especially up under that popsicle brace right there where it meets the sound hole brace. You can use this chisel and get in there and pop that stuff off. So these are my two main popsicle brace removal chisels. I brought them with me just in case I needed them. I also remember, see the reason I'm telling you all this stuff, I had a box of tools that I was going to bring with me, and last week I forgot them sitting on my bench outside my shop. So as the week went by this week, I added more and more tools. All right, this just a string winder, and I do have a battery powered one over here. You see, this is not my favorite electric screwdriver, but this is the remote shop, so I'm putting all these tools into use that I don't know what to use. I get this from StewMac. This is nice for this. This one's cool because you start it and you rotate your wrist in the way that you want to go. And I don't really like that. I don't like the angle that I have to hold my hand here. I'd rather hold it straight like this. And I like the switch so that I can go loose, tight, and I know which way I'm going to go because I stand here and I go, which way is loose? You know? But it's a decent screwdriver and I need to use it. Put the StewMac deal here. Occasionally your batteries die though. So mechanical string winder is great. Is this a Dudenbostel? You know, that might be a Dudenbostel. I've had a couple of people give me string winders over the years. That looks like a Dudenbostel string winder, doesn't it? And the problem is it doesn't fit these fat buttons very well. So, but always carry an analog string winder with you because you never know when you're going to need it. Right, here's my calipers. Digital calipers. I don't like the digital as much as I like the analog because the batteries die, and they always die at the worst time, and you got to turn it on, you got to turn it off. You also have to recalibrate it. This one is weird in that when you want to go to the end, like that, so that you can measure depths, like that, you got to recalibrate it. And the other one, the analog one, you don't have to do that. It's different. I can't remember how, but you measure the depth and you're done. So you have to recalibrate this and you got to turn it on and off. I don't like it as well as I like the analog one. So here it is in the remote shop. It's been living under the bench, so it's getting some use now. What else we got? You want to keep going on this? How many we got here? 23 minutes. Let's go some more tools. Okay. Some of these tools are new because, you know, I stocked up this this remote shop. One of those new tools is these diamond fret files. These suckers are expensive. However, I used them for the first time a couple of days ago. Wow. These are sweet. They cut better. They cut fast. These are sweet. I can see getting a whole set of these eventually. I also got the standard StewMac nut files. These are great. I've been using these forever, except these are new, so they cut really, really good. I also appreciate the fact that they finally put a little rubber deal with the number on it. My old ones have it handwritten on there. Wears out. These will probably wear out too after about 20 years, but they're good files, good fret files. I mean, stuff like that, the specialty tools like fret files You know, if you're only going to do one nut, you could do something else. But when you do, well, I used to do 50 nuts a year. And I know that because of how many times I ordered nuts and saddles from Stu Mac. And I do 50 nuts, more than that, 60, 70 saddles, but that's a different ballgame. Having the proper tool, it's just really, really nice. I pointed out this one. This is the fret crowning file. I tried the Z file from Stu Mac. I didn't like it nearly as much. Just have used this one for so long. And this is a brand new one specifically for this shop because I use it so much. And it's funny, but I really like the shape that it fits your hand here. It's got two sides. It's got a wide and a medium. There's not that much difference between the two, honestly. If you're using wide fret wire, then yeah, you need to use the wide. They both put a nice crown on it. And I like the round crown that they put rather than the pointy crown. The pointy crown feels funny under my fingers. It feels sharp. The round crown is just easy on my fingers. This one, with this curve right here, you can get up over the fingerboard like that. I use this constantly. I come up like this over the edge to round the edges, and this way, a couple swipes like that to get all the tops really consistent. So, great tool. The rest of them are pretty self-explanatory. This is the fret rocker. The little trick I use with the fret rocker is not to rock it. Say you want to do these. Don't rock it necessarily, but twist it. Twist it sideways. And you can hear it scraping on the edges. When it sits here like this and pivots freely, then this fret's high. Sometimes you can find a fret better that way than you can by rocking it. I would prefer that these edges were knife edged if I was going to rock them rather than flat. I've got straight edges that are like that. Stu Mac straight edges with the edge. But I like to slide it like this. See, like that one? That center of that fret might be just a smidgen bit high, because that's scraping. That's not. But this is at a point in the neck where it's okay, because once I put some tension on it, it's going to come back in. I'm not going to worry about that too much. Anyway, that's a lot to it. Okay, the new tools I got. This is the Stu Mac snap file. This thing is nice. I have had the actual individual files with the handles. You know, you can make them yourself if you want and blah, blah, blah. But this one is really nice because it's got these magnets in here. And it's got 4 different fret inserts that go on here. And so for a remote shop like this is super nice because I just bring this and those and I snap in everything I want. This one is a super fine file. This one's a pretty coarse file, and it's got 2 edges to it, even though you only use this one because it's beveled. So that's a coarse file. And this one is the real surprise of the whole bunch. It's a diamond. The diamond took the level off the frets here like that. Man, it was nice. In fact, I had to be super careful not to put any tension on that. So what you do is you just snap these in here, and you've got this rock solid file system on the same handle all the time. Leveling with that diamond thing, man, and it's heavy, you know, so there's a lot of weight on it. I just set that on there and just slid it back and forth and let the weight of this do it. It was sweet. I've been really impressed. This is becoming one of my favorite tools. It's got this really coarse rasp deal too. I haven't used that one too much yet, but I did use it for something recently. Anyway, but it's cool. Just snap all these in here. Got a little arrow. That's been really handy. I'm telling you this about the remote shop because these are what I would probably consider the essential tools. You know, here I am at this remote shop, and I want to be able to do a certain range of things. I don't have my neck steaming jig here and that kind of thing, but I do footwork, nuts, saddles. I could do tuner work. So I bought 2 of these, and these are the sanding cauls that I use when I'm doing a roof rat. I don't always use these, But if I have, because I don't like to sand a fingerboard a whole lot, but if I have a fingerboard that looks rough, I don't care about the divots so much from playing, but if it looks wobbly, if it looks like the radius is uneven, a lot of times it will, because people hand sanded them in the future. So you got a 14-inch and a 12-inch and a 20-inch radius, you know. It's just nice to make a couple passes with these. Sometimes I've had radius that's like a 15-inch. It's in between 16 and 14, and I know that my calls that I use for fretting are not going to be accurate. So then I'll use one of these to just lightly surface that fingerboard. I don't want to sand a whole lot, but you use the 150 grit, stick them on there. I got two sizes. They got a 14 and a 16, because that's the single most common, the two most common Martin sizes to run across. If I have a 20-inch radius or something like that, I just do that by hand. And again, I'm just taking off places where there's glue or something like that on there. Just a super light sanding, not a big deal. But I do find these useful enough that I brought two of them, brought them with me. I bought my old fretting hammer. I bought a new one, a dead blow one that lives at the real shop. And I've had this one forever. And you know, it's pretty decent. It's got a plastic side, it's got a metal side. And I've showed this in my other videos. And the way to make it pretty much a dead blow is to put your hand back here on the back and pow. And you hit with your wrist or your elbow. Bam, like that. And don't use your wrist like you would if you were framing. If you're framing your house, you know, you use your wrist and let that hammer do the work. But over here with frets, you do the opposite. You use your elbow, pow, and this sits up under your hand and it won't bounce. You can kind of imitate it. So I've had that forever. That's not a new tool. This is a fret slot saw. I have two of these. Someone gave me one, showed up in a box. I use these every now and then for just cleaning out the fret slot. Sometimes there'll be a particular piece of glue, something stubborn in there, especially if you use super glue or something, there'll be some. And these are just great for cleaning out the slots. You can also not use the saw part, but kind of drag this corner here, and it makes a really good cleaner. So instead of using the saw portion, you tilt it a little bit and use a sharp edge here to just clean the slot. This is Jaws. This is the new Jaws. I've showed this in my videos. You know, you use it as a call. I am not liking the new Jaws nearly as much as the old Jaws. There's a couple of things I don't like about it. For one thing, I do not like this. I don't like, it just feels awkward. I'm used to putting my fingers under here to open this, you know, with that natural pressure. This takes two motions. It takes this click and then an uplift, whereas in previously I could just uplift and do it. The handles are shorter than they used to be, and I don't get as much leverage, and I also don't have as much to hold on to here. You know, even though I have just medium-sized hands, you know, my fingers falling off of here, and I really appreciated that extra inch that the old ones had. Second thing, I guess this is okay. This is about the same deal, but what I've noticed with these, they don't open as much. The old ones, my gosh, they would, you know, they'd open a lot. So it was easier to put them on the guitar because you would unclick them when they'd open up big, and then you slide that on. And I find with these, I'm constantly having to open them up to get this thing on the neck of the guitar. Yeah, I don't like these nearly as much as the old ones, but I'm making do. I'm figuring them out. Sometimes maybe it's a matter of figuring out how to use the new tool. I don't know. But I would not trade my old set for these. Nope. The other thing I noticed about the calls on these is they're huge. They're really big this way, and they're a little loose in the slot, which is okay. Yeah, it works. It's a good tool. I mean, I bought one because it's so handy for fretting up to the first 10 frets, and after that you're going to hit the heel, so don't go up there. So I did buy one because it's super useful, but I don't like the new one as much. It's awkward for me to do that. And It's a lot of strength, you know. So this is kind of cool. I did one thing, you know. You pull this out and you can change the call. That's nice. You know, I do like that. And it slides freer than the other one. So, you know, that's an upgrade. But I wish it had the longer handles, and I wish it had the tang underneath here. There must be a reason. I guess they probably just went with a different tool company. So that happens, you know. They lose their tools. No fault of Stu Mac or anything. They just lose their tool supplier. What else do I have under my bench? It's interesting. That's about it, really. You know, I brought sandbags with me. Homemade sandbags made out of blue jeans. I like the V's a lot. They're great for putting a neck into, like this. They keep the neck handy, and you can still use them as ordinary sandbags. I like to put them over the hole a lot of times when I'm doing the refrets. It keeps the noise down. Two bar tools. I get questions all the time, how do I shave the braces? These tools here are really handy. This is just a Sureform curved that I get from the hardware store. I'm going to cut the handle off here so that it's a handheld. I have 3 or 4 of these, and this is just the one I brought with me. This one I used to use to get a little bit more reach, but for braces and stuff, I don't want that out of the way. I want it completely handheld. I brought one of these with me because I'm going to do the back braces on this guitar. I brought 2 brace jacks. These are handy for all kinds of things. You got a loose brace, you know, you can use these. And I have the nicer ones with the scissor jacks. Man, those are primo, but they stay at the other shop. I use them there a lot more than I do here. These are just emergency deals. I've got a magnet stuck on this one, so I can use that magnet, and I can pop it to the top. It makes it so much easier to hold it in position. I brought 2 of these just for things. Brought that one with me. I went to the hardware store. There's a hardware store right across the street, which makes this really handy. Bought a couple files. This is the size that is essential for me for doing saddles, shaping saddles and stuff. It's just how long is this? 8 inch, 10 inch, 12 inch. I really like the 6 inches. I like the little shorter ones. It's just a regular mill bastard file. Second tool that I use a lot is this multi-file. It's curved on one side. It's got a very coarse rasp. It's got a finer rasp. The other side's a coarse rasp and a file. I use this a lot on shaving the back braces. Use that coarse one, and it's flat, and I can tilt it. So I got a good feel for holding this flat. Rasp off some stuff, and then switch to this side, make it smooth, and then go in and sand it. Use this quite often. It's also good for doing nuts and saddles and that kind of thing. If you want to take off a lot of material with that, just a handy tool to have around. $6 or so, you know. This is a Dragon rasp that I got from Stu Mac or Luther's Mercantile. I don't remember which one. I put a plastic deal on the tip because it's got a real super sharp tip, and you don't want to go jamming in the guitar. Now, tell you on this because I really don't like this file that much. It's supposed to be quick. I don't like it. I'm not impressed with it. It's got a half curved side over here, flat side over here, but it just doesn't seem to cut wood nearly as well as this cheap department store or hardware store file. And this was like $30, and this is $5. If this gets dull, I'll throw it away, or I give it to my son, and he makes knives out of it. But I go get a new one, you know. But I've had the other one that I have at the house shop. I bet I've had it 10 or 15 years. You know, I just bought a bunch of files one day at the hardware store and see what I like. I like that one. So these 2 files here at the remote shop, essential tools. This one, save you money. It's here because it was sitting in a box, and I thought, well, I'll bring it along. Maybe I'll use it once. Alright, let's go for another quick tour and then we'll get this done. This is just a standard little device. I have a second workbench over here I'm going to put a belt sander here pretty quick as soon as I can find one in stock. Might have to order one. And a lot of times I just clamp the vise to here. I'm just going to do shaping of nuts and saddles. It's not a big deal. That's handy. This is a 6-inch bench grinder deer that I got for my son. He picks up a lot of this stuff at auctions. He makes incredibly good knives. So if you like handmade Damascus knives, like he uses 300 layers of Damascus that he does himself, look up KinseyKnives.com. And he's 19 years old and learned to do all this by himself. But like me, his waiting list is huge. But look him up. Anyway, I got this from him. He picked it up at an auction. Never used it. I needed a buffer for this shop, and I had this wheel, like I said, sitting up on the bench for years and years and years because I use a drill press, and not a drill press. I use a drill that I tape to a certain speed, and then I use a foot trigger for it. But I needed something over here, so I brought this with me. Works pretty good. It's super, super weak. I can see why they put it in the auction. It's super weak. You can't put much pressure on it. You just stop it dead. But it works. So we're getting down to the end. I didn't mean to give you the whole spiel here, but this is the lets you measure the fingerboard. This is the cheap one, made out of aluminum. It's not the StreamAc one. Someone gave this to me again. It's a very handy tool. Bring it in here. I've got the good StreamAc one at home, which again someone gave to me. Surprising how many customers will give me these tools. Got me a 80 watt soldering iron at the hardware store. Use it for loosening up the glue on frets. That's essential. Up here, I got fret wire. I bought 2 kinds of fret wire with me. I've got Evo, both from Just Car. Evo 4380 and nickel silver 4380. That's it. Anything else, I'll do at home or bring it with me. You know, those are the 2 main things. It's either Evo and nickel silver. Here's my various glues. I got a little bottle of fish glue, little bottle of Franklin Type Bond bottle hide glue that I use for fret slots, Luther's Mercantile instrument glue, a pretty decent super glue. Got this at the hardware store, and this is the medium, so it's a thicker one. I got StreamAc number 10, which is the thin super glue, really good for doing cracks and stuff like that. Brand new bottle of black, which I haven't even opened, which is pretty handy for filling in cracks and stuff on bridges. It's a medium. I got Goo Gone, use that for cleaning. Couple of utility razor blades, about a 5-pack of them. I got micro mesh. That's what I use for the frets when I clean them up. I got a red Sharpie used for marking the tops of the frets when I'm leveling them. I have over here fret protectors, which I use once in a while. Blue tape. This is essential. And you can see it selling the guitar when I was doing the frets. So got that. Put a screw up in here. That's where it stays, and you notice it goes like that so that it stays there, it doesn't bounce off. Got my light rigged up now. Turns out there's an outlet up there which is just perfect for that light. Got my whiteboard over here. This is from one of the office rooms. And when they were painting the walls, I set it down in the hall, and I said, I own the building. I own this thing. So I just brought it in here, and I haven't used it yet, but I'm going to. I need to put a little shelf for this, and I'll get to that. So here's my second one, bench, and like I said, I just made this out of scrap lumber, and I'm going to put a belt sander on there. Shop vacuum, which the office building owns, and might as well live in here and get used. Here's my humidifier, and I am keeping this humidified. These are really nice. These are the air cares. They're super easy to fill up. Those are really nice humidifiers. I like them a lot. Got my little gauge right here that I put up there. These are my favorite hygrometers by far. Thermopro, they're like $10 on Amazon. I have them all over the place. I've got one in the office, the actual office per se. And I guess that's about it. Yeah. So, boy, that's a lot of stuff. I just set out to show you feeler gauges, and we ended up taking a tour of the shop. Oh, one last thing. This is cool. Pick holder. I stuck it on here, and then I can keep my picks up here, and they're out of the way. And this, Madagascar rosewood. This is a Bridgebank. I had a bunch of these. This bin was covered with these. That's a label from Luthier's Mercantile showing that I purchased Madagascar Bridgebanks at one time. But this whole thing was covered with them. And I took them off and I got it here. So, there we go. Long video. Sorry about that. I got to going on this thing, but I guess it's useful to show you what I consider essential Lutherie tools. You know, here I am at the remote bench. This is the stuff that I brought with me. The one thing I'm missing is my belt sander, and if I was going to Kaufman camp, I think, I had a bandsaw. I had a little 9-inch bandsaw that I would take with me. Super useful for cutting the excess off bone saddles and that kind of thing. I want to do that here because I've got a bandsaw back at the other place, and so I don't need one here. But the belt sander to do nuts and saddles, $150 belt sander, it's just essential for me. Get something done. So, all right, here we go. Back to work. See you later.